warm welcome to you all. Hope you'll thoroughly enjoy our programme.
Oh, hello.
It's the Real Britannia podcast, a very British podcast about very British movies with just a hint of professionalism. Good morning, Scott here, and it's a very special episode because we've got a very special guest joining me and Stephen. Stephen, good morning.
Morning.
It's one of those wonderful occasions where it's a non-Hammer movie featuring our dear friend Mark. Hello, mate.
Hello. Or should I say, all right, me old China. Give him this
God blimey.
God blimey, Gav.
We were just talking off air.
Sorry.
This is a real trip down memory lane for you, mate, isn't it? It's your old stomping ground on film.
When I used to get to school around where they filmed all this, it was so weird. Those ugly concrete flats, everything. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get straight into this because I'm itching to talk about it. Both of you two are. It's Sitting Target, 1972, starring Oliver Reed. As an amazing trailer. Here it is. We'll be back after this.
You are looking at an animal. I've got to get out of here, Birdie. And the toughest maximum security prison can't cage his lust for vengeance. The Prison Break. The Mauser Special. The Target. With this gun, there are no more hard contracts for Harry Lomart. Every hit is a sitting target. Sitting target. Sitting target. Sitting target, rated R.
There we go. That's Sitting Target, released in the UK 1972, directed by Douglas Hickox, starring Oliver Reed, Jill St. John, Ian McShane, Edward Woodward, Frank Finlay, Freddie Jones, and a few other famous familiar faces. Bit of an underseen gem, this one. If you're not aware of it, the synopsis is: imprisoned Harry Lomart is a vicious brute of a man, and yet he's prepared to do his long jail term as he's confident that on his release his beautiful wife Pat will be waiting for him. But a visit from Pat brings him his worst nightmare. This was recommended to me by you, Mark, about a year ago. And I just did the usual, looked on IMDb, checked out the trailer and all that sort of stuff that you usually do. And I thought, why haven't I seen this? This fits nicely in that Get Carter, Villain, all of that era that we're going to probably talk about over the next hour or so. Mark, your history with it, because I know you love it. You've actually got the DVD of this, haven't you?
I got the DVD years ago when it was available from America. I imported it, and it's not available anymore. It's new. But I bought it ages ago, and it's a very bare bones. It's the film and a TV spot. That's it. And the TV spot's from America, so it's American trailer, basically.
That's all
yeah, I don't think it was a TV spot. It's way too violent. I think it's a cinema trailer, actually. I think they mislabeled it. But yes, I know the area. I've just freakily checked the director's credits, and I just found out he went to the same school as me, which is at Clapham Junction. Which might explain why this is filmed around there. So weird that he went to the same school as me.
That explains everything then, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is so odd.
Douglas Hickox is like a really sort of patchy career. I mean, he did Theatre of Blood.
Theatre of Blood's great. And he did the goofy John Wayne in London film.
Brannigan.
Which I want to watch again now as well.
Is that the one with
Brannigan, yeah.
That, isn't it?
I think, and... But basically John Wayne, he's trying to do Dirty Harry in London, right? That's kind of it.
And Zulu Dawn as well
Yeah.
is one of his as well. And a lot of TV sort of things with Joan Collins and Judith Krantz adaptations he used to do in the early 80s. That's Douglas Hickox. So not a spectacular career, but this movie, Stephen, I mean, you watched it last night. I managed to find a copy and sent it over to you. First time watch for you. Apologies for it being all Cockney again, mate. But what did you think of Sitting Target on your first viewing?
Well, thankfully you sent me the subtitled version, so I managed to get through it. I mean, it's just something that I don't think possibly I had a vague awareness that it existed because of looking up something to do with either Ian McShane or Oliver Reed. But no, I definitely hadn't seen it before. You're absolutely right. There's a attempt in this to replicate something that is, the Bronson-esque or whatever. I think it does its own thing. It's very, very British, so you can't really escape away from that. And unless the helicoptered in some American star to be the main part, it had to be somebody like Oliver Reed to be able to carry it off. I think it was quite a ride, as it were, I think, and certainly a film of two halves as well.
Well, a film of many. Well, the thing is, it's just story and tone constantly, and you're like, what is going? I couldn't tell you the story. I could tell you the elements. I could say, oh, there was this thread and there was this, but in terms of order and I don't know, man. It was all over the place. But
it's a basic revenge thriller, but the reason for him wanting to spring from jail just seemed a bit tacky and a bit wishy-washy. I mean, normally, you get your villains bursting out of jail because they're going to go and exact revenge on somebody that's stolen their money or killed their mother or whatever. But it's just the fact that his long-term girlfriend says, I'm leaving you, I'm pregnant, I've had enough, sort of thing. And he goes absolutely psychotic to actually get out. And that's the whole basis of the film, and it's sort of maintained throughout the whole.
I don't mind that. It's the fact an hour in he catches her and something. Then he doesn't kill her, for whatever reason, and then he goes off and does some other stuff. Like he's not that bothered. And he's
plot, isn't there?
Yeah, but he specifically broke out to kill her. Right, that's his rationale, right? But yeah. It's a bit odd. I liked it, but it was odd. It's an odd film.
But how much of his motivation for getting out was stoked by his mate, who it turned out had ulterior motives himself?
Yeah. I think there was a bit of that. Well, I don't know. Ollie Reed instigated it, and Ian McShane, his mate, Birdie, sort of went along with it, and he seemed like quite a good mate for a lot of it, though quite a bit more of a psycho than Ollie Reed was just a beast, and Ian McShane was kind of a psycho. That's how it felt to me.
Yeah, there's a couple of clues to Ian McShane's character along the way, just how nasty he is, because there's that quite brutal scene of him killing a dog with a brick.
Yeah.
Although you don't see much of it, you know what he's doing there. And then Oliver Reed and Ian McShane have the chance to have sex, not with each other, but have the chance to have sex twice in this movie, which Ollie Reed rejects on 2 occasions. And Ian McShane quite happily takes up.
Yeah.
And you sort of get this feeling. So I think you're quite right that Ian McShane was sort of leading him on, because there's this whole subplot of the £200,000 that Ian McShane obviously wanted to get some of his hands on as well. And it's difficult to actually work out what Ollie Reed's character actually was. We know he's a thug, a brute, and all this.
Yeah, it makes sense until he stops pursuing his wife, killing his wife, and goes for the money instead. It's like, well, why did he do this now? I almost feel like they had the story in a different order and they re-edited it this way for some reason. And I can't work it out. But it's an odd film because it's kind of arty and almost psychedelic in places, isn't it? And there's moments where Ollie Reed's a total beast, and then there's other moments where he's kind of like a kid or regretful or something. He's showing something different, whereas Ian McShane's straight up, let's just do this. You know?
You talking about it being quite sort of psychedelic and quite arty. That's the first thing I thought. This director's trying a bit too hard, because there's a scene near the beginning where Jill St. John comes to visit him visit Ollie Reed in the prison.
Yeah.
And they've got the glass separating them, and there's this marvelous shot of they're talking to each other, but it's the reflection of Jill St. John talking to Ollie Reed, and they're both facing the same way. They're not looking at each other.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and it was quite clever, and there was some like low angle shots looking up.
And loads of overhead shots, loads of almost nothing at the level people were talking at.
No.
Shooting through the some of the ironwork in the prison, and there's the
pendulum.
The pendulum and the people's faces isolated by one of the roundels in the ironwork and stuff.
What it reminded me of?
All that kind of stuff.
Reminded me of the cinematography in Ipcress File, where everything was at a Dutch angle or being shot through a glass of water or something,
There's a bit of that. I also thought very strongly, I really like the opening scene where we see him kind of sweating while he's exercising in his cell, and there's a pendulum going, indicating he's got nothing else to do, time's just passing. That made me think really strong. Oh, blimey, this reminds me of Tom Hardy as Bane in Dark Knight Returns, and Christian Bale. And honestly, Ollie Reed really reminded me of Tom Hardy in this, or vice versa.
Yeah, I was looking for that because you sent us a text the other day after watching it saying it looks like Tom Hardy's dad in this movie. He does. We mentioned about getting big Hollywood stars into this movie. Jill St. John, the elephant in the room here. This is after Diamonds Are Forever, isn't it?
Yes, it's her second set. She did 2 films back to back, and this is the second one.
So this was immediately after Diamonds Are Forever?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So that explains her presence here. Bond girl, bit of money, bit of American influence in the movie.
Yeah.
Who wants to start?
Well, should we talk about the accent or what?
Exactly.
She's got a Rodine accent in this, right, which... American would work better in a London council estate than a Rodine accent. It just does not work at all. And why they dubbed her why didn't they just leave her as American? It would have made more sense. She's she'd be a little more glamorous as well, and you could kind of.
Well, I was expecting the American accent, and when this really bizarre voice came out, I thought, "Oh, you're doing well on that English accent, love. That's okay." But after about 30 seconds. I suddenly realised it wasn't her. No. The dubbing started to go off a bit as well. The lip syncing was a bit skew with as well. Yeah. Stephen, Jill St. John?
Yeah, I mean, okay, a good looking woman, but the voice and etc. didn't quite fit in, and I was at one point trying to work out who it was, whether it was somebody we actually recognised who was doing the voice. I even tried to work out whether it was June Brown, but of course with her only saying like 5 words in this entire thing, it really couldn't work out whether it was her or not, to be honest. Don't know if she memorised those bits of dialogue, but
I don't know, wasn't it? I don't know, over and over.
Don't know. Yeah, but Jill St. John, absolutely. I think You've identified the better way that would have been that she would have had more cachet for him to have become attached to if she had that American element. But I suppose, maybe there would have been the question why she didn't just run back to America in that case when he was obviously upset and potentially going to come after her. But they should have left it as it was and tried to put in an accent that wasn't appropriate, really. Even I could tell from hundreds of miles away that it wasn't necessarily one that was befitting for Mark's old stomping ground.
It was a bit distracting because you find yourself watching it thinking that's not her, that's not her, and it just took you out of the movie a little, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't have that much to do, to be honest, but it was a bit distracting and a bit of an odd choice. Given there's another character later on who is American, who's only in it one scene, but
Robert Beatty, the gun guy,
well, he's Canadian, but. He plays Americans in a lot of things. He's in Doctor Who and stuff like that. I've seen him in quite a few things.
I think he was based in the UK, wasn't he? Because he appeared in every sort of British sort of TV show as well, didn't he, as the token American?
Yeah. There's some other interesting faces. I saw the bloke from Randall and Hopkirk early on. I can't remember. Yes, that's his name. Rat is the not dead one, right? In Randall. And it was kind of
did you recognise the prison officer in the back of the van when they was escaping? The 3 of them with Freddie Jones and the prostitute, and there's a prison officer in a uniform. It's a guy
kind of looked familiar.
Yeah, I think, if I'm just double checking this, yeah, it's Tony Beckley, who was Camp Freddie in the
Camp
Italian
Freddie,
Job,
yes, Camp Freddie, of
who
course.
also appears in Get Carter.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about one of the other guards. My mistake.
No, the one in the back of the prison van, yeah.
Yeah.
Tony Beckley, yeah.
No, I recognised another of the guards. I've just looked at it. He plays Robert Stern in Witchfinder General. So I recognised it, but I couldn't figure out where from.
It's not a massive cast, and we will get to the Hall of Fame very soon, but Edward Woodward, saying that very carefully, Edward Woodward, criminally underused in this movie.
Yes, I agree that he was underused. I think this is a bit earlier in his career before they realised that he got into that setup of being a bit more of the sort of hard man to go in there, detective, and whether it was Callan or Equalizer or whatever. I think they hadn't quite cottoned on that he could do that and that it would actually work, and that he could have been potentially a tough man to the same level as Oliver Reed, and they could have had more of a face-off, to be perfectly honest. So absolutely underused, unfortunately.
It's the year before Wicker Man, and the Callum movie came out in 1974, but Callum was running about this sort of time on the TV, I think. Yeah, and it's sort of almost like a cameo, as if it's like, oh, brilliant, there's Edward Woodward. But he wasn't a massive star at the time, so it wouldn't have been a cameo appearance from him, would it? That's the thing.
It did make me laugh that he was saying to her, oh, we'll give you protection, all this. And there was like, no one there. She's in a flat, in Eye-for-Eyes flat. No one there. And because
there's this amazing fight on the tower block with Oliver Reed on the balcony.
Yeah, that was great. Actually, very tense.
Yeah, and I suffered terribly from vertigo, and that actually really made me feel sick. Because, as you said, there's that overhead shot of him like leaning over the balcony, or trying to push him over the balcony, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to go myself. It was really like nerve-wracking for me. But that was a great scene, that fight on the balcony with them.
I thought he was going to go over. I really did. It's like, wow, who would pick a fight with Ollie Reed on the edge of a massive drop? Nah, that's bad news. But, credit he did.
The stunts are by a guy called Peter Diamond, who did every British movie in the 70s and the 80s, all the Star Wars movies, everything. He was in every sort of Elstree production. Right. So that was quite a bit of a coup for him. And did you notice the editor was John Glenn as well?
Yes, I did notice that. I immediately thought of James Bond. And you know what? And it made me think when I was watching it, why wasn't Ian McShane a James Bond? He looks the part. He's got the charisma. Yeah. Why on earth? He would have, I like Roger Moore's early films, but Ian McShane was way tougher, kind of, could project that, right?
He was just nasty. Anyway. Ian McShane was nasty in this.
Nasty piece of work, yes.
And
he was all friendly, wasn't he? He was all friendly to everyone, and then, it was a bit rapey. Well, I don't know if you could call it that, because these women were totally compliant, but I don't know if that was like, is it the underworld? Is this just a bit dated in its script? I couldn't work it out.
It was a bit seedy and a bit sickening, some of those two scenes. Yes. Sorry, Stephen, you were going to say, mate.
Just saying, it's amazing. He did all this when he was younger, and then, that character ended up selling antiques. It's just
yeah, and then moving to America and running a Wild West town.
I've just finished
and a hotel. Yeah,
I've just finished season 1 of Deadwood because I missed it when it first came out, and I absolutely loved it. I binge watched it all last week. And I'm going to carry on with the other two. There's a movie as well, isn't there, of Deadwood? I think when it
is there. I didn't know that. The level of swearing is kind of beyond. It takes everything to another level.
You sort of get used to it after sort of episode 2. You think, this is part and parcel of it. But it's brilliant in that. And nice to see Freddie Jones in this.
Yeah, love this. I really like this in the milieu of all the early 70s crime films. It's not a classic. It's not Get Carter. No. I like it better than Villain, say.
I possibly do, actually, as much as I adore Villain.
But it is a strangely atonal kind of film, in that it just keeps changing tone, story, and it's like, what's going on? I don't really care, because these guys are just scary, and that you feel like someone's going to get hurt all 90 minutes of the film, right, or whatever.
Yeah. But you
so
must
it
admit
keeps on
they
edge.
did try very hard with this because they throw everything on that screen. You know, we got car chases with motorbikes and vans and explosions. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's there's a bit of a budget to this, not a massive one, but they're definitely, you know, really made the effort with it. And it's just a shame that it's like criminally, well, I keep saying criminally, because it's just a shame that it's underseen.
Yeah, I mean, the escape alone is epic. You know, Ollie Reed goes over barbed wire barefisted, then fights a Doberman, and then starts turning into Tarzan and swinging about. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is a brilliant prison escape.
He fires a gun, and for some reason they've given him incendiary bullets that when he fires at things, they just blow up. That
gun
was an
is his own
interesting touch.
character, isn't it?
Exactly. But, yeah, I agree, Matt.
There was one point, it's the bit towards the end where he's lining up the sights to shoot Jill St. John in the window of the tower block. And you see the camera shot through the sights like you normally do, right? And he's panning across, trying to find the right floor, blah, blah, blah. And then it zooms. It zooms. Yeah. I don't know how he did that. It zooms.
Well, the thing is, okay, it's got a sight, but that little gun would no way be able to shoot someone accurate like that. It's just like, you need a powerful sniper rifle, right? Not a little gun.
Mauser, didn't they? Didn't they say it was a Mauser?
Mauser. Yeah. I mean, hell of a gun. It's kind of almost like a SMG, you know, a submachine gun almost. Because it can fire the whole clip in one, you know, things like that. It was. This film is, apart from Winchester 73, I can't remember a film so focused on an individual gun.
The only one I can think of that would be a little bit around about that era as well was Day of the Jackal.
A Man with a Golden Gun, I guess.
The Man with a Golden Gun, I suppose.
Yeah. But on a specific gun, it's so weirdly sort of fetishistic about this gun.
Like you said, it's almost, you know, one of the stars of the movie.
Yeah, that and the council estates were characters in their own right.
Excellent locations. We've been talking about the cast and crew. Stephen, let's get your keys. We need to go and visit the Hall of Fame. It's not a massive cast, but I'm sure there's a few surprises. Here we go. Okay, Village Hall of Fame, where anybody that's appeared on the show 3 times or more gets inducted into the Village Hall. Stephen, what have you got for us, sir? You are the curator.
Thank you very much. Yeah, not a big cast, like you said. 16 actors, 9 of which have appeared in something that we've seen before. I don't know how they've managed that, but...
Right, before you start, Mark, any guesses if there's going to be any Night to Remember appearances?
No. I don't think there's any.
I think
possibly Mike Pratt. But I would bet on none. I'd bet on none.
I'm not. I'm going to say no, but Stephen may surprise us. Okay, mate, over to you.
Well, I'll spoil the surprise and say no, there isn't. That was one of the spoilers I was going to announce. Yeah, that exactly where my mind was going at the start there. That we don't have that. We do have a one film that seems to feature a few people previously, but that will be a surprise. But 5 people who've been in at least one other film that we've done before, so having their second appearances. Robert Beatty, who you mentioned as far as from the other side of the pond introducing him, he was in A Matter of Life and Death.
Wow,
of all things.
He must have been young. He must have. Was he one of the airmen in the?
That's it. You see. Also, Frank Finlay, who I thought we'd seen more of. Just because we've seen him in a lot of things otherwise, certainly some television stuff on Talking Pictures TV, which we all watch religiously. But he was previously in Robbery.
Of course he was. Trying to think who he was, though. I can picture him in it.
Obviously, Douglas Hickox, Theatre of Blood, you've already mentioned him as the director, which we did a long time ago. Mike Pratt as well was in Robbery previously, which... vague recollection of him being in Robbery, but certainly we all know him more from Randall and Hopkirk. He never was going to escape that role, I don't think, no matter, even if he didn't die prematurely.
Mhm.
And Edward Woodward, unfortunately, we haven't seen more of him. The only thing we've seen him in otherwise is The Wicker Man.
Has to be, yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, but hopefully we'll catch a bit more of old Eddie Woody. Eddie Woody Wood. So 4 people actually getting their proper seat inside the Hall of Fame, which is very nice for them to finally get in there rather than be shivering on the doorstep. Freddie Jones, which I mentioned previously, who was in The Man Who Haunted Himself, as well as in Mr. Horatio Nibbles.
Amazing, yeah.
Or Freddie Jones's sloppy seconds, as I call him now.
Bloody hell.
You'll have to watch the movie, folks, to find out what that reference is all about.
Yeah.
Carry on, sir.
Flesh is weak. The spirit is weaker. Ian McShane, previously in Performance and Villain.
There's a bit of a genre sort of link here, isn't there?
Yeah, McShane is prominent in these early 70s crime movies. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Somebody called Bob Ramsey, who you might not recognise the face of, but you might recognise the face of, but you don't necessarily connect the name to it. He was in Frenzy and Quadrophenia. And Robert Russell was in Bedazzled and Robbery again. So that's the frequency of robbery appearing.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, we've got one last person who won't be a surprise to any of you, making their 5th appearance, and that's Oliver Reed, who was in Curse of the Werewolf, League of Gentlemen, The Rebel, and 2 Faces of Dr. Jekyll.
That is a complete mishmash of genres there. So I'm assuming this is June Brown's first appearance.
It's his, yeah. It is, and until we do EastEnders the movie.
She was in a lot of stuff.
She was in a weird film with Jack Wilde, where it was like something called like The Magnificent Eight or something, where basically she was the mother of Jack Wilde and all these kids, and I think she died, and the kids had to raise themselves.
I know the one, and the kids all like to carry on. Yeah, she's in Psychomania. She's in Straw Dogs.
Yeah, Straw Dogs. Yeah.
Murder by Decree, that great Sherlock Holmes, my favourite.
I watched that recently.
My favourite Sherlock Holmes adaptation.
Oh, and mine. Yeah, Holmes and Watson are peerless in that.
The Jack Wilde thing, I think it's got 2 titles because it's also known as The 14.
Okay, my mistake.
And it was directed, listen to this, directed by David Hemmings.
Oh, that's weird, because I always thought that was directed by the same guy that did Melody.
Yeah, I thought it certainly has that same sort of style, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you who else who's in it. I'm just looking down the cast list. As well as Dot Cotton, you've got Thingy Fowler, the original grandmother, Pauling's mother.
Yeah, Lou Beale.
She's in it as well. Guy Stand even actually gets a credit as the Doctor. He might even talk in that. That's got to be added to the list at some point. Okay, Stephen, so that was it. So Oliver Reed is the sort of like most frequent flyer this week with 5.
Yeah, with 5, yeah. So there's no hidden Harringtons in there or anything like that, unfortunately.
But is there a film where Oliver Reed's in where he isn't anything but fantastic, though? You know,
I don't think so. I mean, everything, even up to Gladiator, he was the best bit in Gladiator. You know, his last movie.
That's why they had to make more of him by CGI him.
There's actually, I'm sorry to be so obsessed with London films from the early 70s, but there is another London film of Oliver Reed that hardly anyone I know has ever seen or heard of, where he plays a headmaster with Glenda Jackson as a teacher in a really rough school. Phil Daniels is in it too, and it's called The Class of Miss McMichael. It's a good film, and no one seems to know about it.
I like the sound of that.
Because it's a really rough school, and Oliver Reed plays like a posh headmaster who's a control freak, you know, and he can't do it in this school, you know, it don't work at all. London kids, no.
Well, I think he'll be cropping up very soon in the next year or so, because he's in the Bulldog breed, Stephen, as well. He's the teddy boy in the Bulldog breed with Norman Wisdom. Yeah. Right. Well, thanks as always for doing that, mate. An easy one this week, I'm assuming.
Relatively, yeah, certainly. With that amount of cast, I was settled in to do my usual going through it, and then suddenly I went, oh, no, that's it. Well, what am I going to do with myself now?
And it doesn't happen very often that 5 is the main, the most appearances. Any standout moments of the film, guys? Anything that really stood out for you? Any particular scenes? I mean, we've mentioned most of the sort of set pieces, haven't we?
Yeah, the opening, which I've already mentioned, what I thought was fantastic. The end is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers twist ending, that is. And yeah, kind of, because like at some points there's bits in there, I don't want to spoil the end, but there's bits where you think, well, are they just cheaping out here because her lover has just disappeared, and they just cheaping out by not having him, and things like that. But yeah, basically it's quite a tense film all the way through, but so, like, as I keep saying, weirdly atonal, with kind of moments of Oliver Reed acting almost childlike. He's in a bath. He's in a bubble bath, happy as Larry, and pouring in these oils, and really like, oh, I'm in my happy place, right? After we've seen him horrible and sweaty and kicking the hell out of people, and just being a beast. And then we see him in a bubble bath, sort of playing about. But the end is bonkers. But I think the beginning and anything with the council estates stuff, I found quite striking.
Yeah, it really does set the tone of the movie, the locations in this film. Stephen, anything that you sort of took away from this, or anything that you thought was pretty amazing?
Well, I mean, I think that the entirety of it is that it's a film that, in the same way as The Reckoning, in my mind, that is something that's been overlooked and should be more in the consciousness of people, particularly when they're talking about this ilk of films. It may not be a film that's got the greatest amount of plot in it, because it's quite a simple plot in some ways, but it certainly is done with a certain flair to it, and whether that's overdone in some artistic sense or not. But the music was actually, I think, really good to take you along with it. That was something that struck me. The music was very much atmospheric, and I believe it was actually released on record for some reason. I think I read that. Overall, it's a film that certainly doesn't have any lag in it. You seem to be thinking, what the hell is he going to do next? And that keeps you I think, attention on the screen to wonder what's going to happen next. And not just him, obviously, Ian McShane's character Birdie, trying to work out the pair of them, because in some sense they're egging each other on, and whether Birdie's doing that intentionally or whether he's doing it subtly, it still is there as a factor, which is why things escalate, I think, beyond what they should do. It's certainly a film that doesn't disappoint. I've not seen it before, obviously, and by the end of it, I was thinking, why have I not seen that before? It's
kind of a nasty London version of Butch and Sundance in some ways.
Yeah,
and they're more psychotic. Where would you guys put this in, like, the milieu of the sort of crime films of this era? I'd put it pretty high.
For me, obviously, the obvious sort of like comparison is going to be made to Get Carter, because it's the same year, year after or whatever. Like the French Connection, I bet they didn't get permission for that car chase.
No.
That was just insane.
Well,
he's driving a weird little red Jeep through council estates, right? And through the middle, not just roads, literally the walkways, under flats and all sorts, right? Yeah,
and I bet if this was to get like a 4K release, right, and it had a limited run at the BFI or whatever, and then they, do a connoisseur collection release of it or something like that, people will start talking about this movie. It's going to be one of those ones like The Wicker Man, didn't it? It took 10 years, 15 years for The Wicker Man to get that cult status. And I've got a sneaking suspicion if they were to restore this and bring it out and an all singing, all dancing, throw everything at it production, I think more people would actually go, bloody hell, why have we not seen this? Like I did when I watched it last night.
Yeah, there is a really cool shot with Battersea Power Station, isn't there?
That angle as the train goes past above them. I'm thinking, that's on its way to Victoria. That's the train that I catch to go to work in the mornings.
Yeah, I was thinking this. I was watching when they were on a train going past, and I feel thinking that is the line between Clapham Junction and Victoria. Sure it is. Yeah. Because I saw a big building called Payne or something, Paynes or something, and I recognised it. Interesting. I mean, it's not up there again. I mean, this is like someone sees Get Carter and says, you know what, that wasn't grim enough. I need something a bit grimmer. This is this film, right? It's well under, your Get Carters and your performance, and your probably, if you include it, The Offence, it's not as good as that, but I'd say it's better than like Villain,
Something that's a bit nasty. This is the
this is nasty. It made me think a bit of Sweeney too. Actually, I was kind of thinking of that. Yeah, because that's kind of brutal but fun. Yeah, we won't talk about Sweeney 1. No.
No, that's Sweeney 2 is definitely the best one with the gold-plated shotgun and all that.
Another gun thing, right? Yes.
Another gun thing, yeah.
I think this isn't bad at all for a 70s. It's not Long Good Friday if you want to just say
nowhere near
70s, it is, but it's kind of decent but odd. It's an odd film.
Stephen, any final thoughts, mate?
The car chases always amuse me from this era, and that's one of the joys of watching something like the Sweeney is seeing the way the cars of that era career around a corner, even though they're only going 25 miles an hour. And it was an interesting idea to have this Jeep, as Mark says, going, it's kind of off-road but still urban, going up steps and through corridors and that it was almost getting to the stage where it's minis going through a plaza of shops in Italy.
It was very
going through, expecting Oliver Reed to just snatch something out of somebody's hand so he could have something to eat while he was chasing, but.
Even the motorbikes were going through like lines and lines of washing as well.
Yeah.
All deliberately all set up. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, I was also trying to figure out if there was something between him and Birdie. Now, I think it wasn't reciprocated, but I feel like Ollie Reed had some sort of thing about Birdie, right? Because he wasn't sleeping with all these women that were available, Birdie was, but he kind of smiled at Birdie when, and it's like, is he kind of got a thing for Birdie? I couldn't work it out if that was some kind of subtext.
When he's not taking advantage of Frank Finlay's young mistress, Maury, he's not. He says when he's about to go and take advantage himself, he says about Oliver Reed's character that he's feeling a bit queer. And there's a look on Oliver Reed's face as he's in the bath and he hears him say this that makes you wonder if there's a subtext of
Oliver Reed being bisexual or something possibly.
Yeah, homoeroticism or part of the reason there's this ultra masculinity and ultra violence is because of his own repression of anything. I mean, it could be reading far too much. Yeah, I mean
that is a very deep and under the skin subtext if it's there, but it could be.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's obviously a bond between them in a way, but it's perhaps not a healthy bond, to be perfectly honest.
You guys know I don't write any notes or very few notes when I'm, watching a movie to review, which is evident in, this podcast. But I wrote one last night, and there's one line that Ian McShane says, and I can't remember where it was in the movie now. And it's the only thing I wrote down last night, and it was, "That bastard must be made of concrete."
Oh, it's in the car chase.
It's when they're in the car when they're just trying to escape.
It's like looped over, like for some bizarre reason, it's looped over this massive car chase and suddenly you hear him say quite distinctly, "This bastard's made of concrete."
Does serve as a good advert for why you should wear a seatbelt though.
Absolutely.
There's one note about this that also made me laugh that I dug out, which is Jill St. John, right? She did Diamonds Are Forever, she did this. And she said, I stopped doing movies after that. 2 road back to back was just too tiring. I was thinking, that sounds a bit lazy.
You're kidding. Is that her filmography?
No, I think she might have done others, but not much. She did loads of TV. I'm not sure if she did any other films, but she'd done 2 back to back, and she found it a bit tiring.
Oh no, she appeared stuff before, obviously. The Player, the Robert Altman movie. She
did a few.
She appeared in. Have you ever seen the Pierce Brosnan version of Around the World in 80 Days?
No.
I think it was more a mini series actually. She's in that. I can't see anything much sort of past that. It looks like an episode of Heart to Heart.
And she looks a bit like Stephanie Powers too, doesn't she?
Stephanie Powers, yeah.
He's a beast in this though, isn't he, old Ollie Reed? He really is, mostly. Yeah. He's more of a beast in this than he is in The Legend of the Werewolf. It's a proper hard man film, this, I have to say. It really is.
I'd recommend it for people that like Get Carter and those early sort of like 70s gangster movies like Villain that we've reviewed, and even The Long Good Friday. Just go back and watch it because it is underseen, and I think you'll get something from it, whether it's the violence, the acting, or Jill St. John's dodgy accent, wherever it may be. Go and give it a go. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to get together to do another non-hammer at some point in a few months' time. And we worked it out just before we went on air. It's Stephen's turn to choose the movie. So we'll be back after this. There we go. Sitting Target, 1972. So, as we said just before that break, Stephen's going to pick a movie. And as we know, Stephen's got a movie list as long as his arm. He's bound to have found something really exciting for us. What is it, mate? What's in store?
Right. Well, I've picked something that's a bit of an ensemble cast piece. And I thought it might appeal to you both based upon what I think your predilections are. I haven't seen it for over 10 years, so hopefully it's as good as I remember it to be. I'll list the people in alphabetical order, the main cast, and see how long it takes you to guess what it is. Michael Caine, Bob Hoskins.
Wrong box. Oh.
Mona Lisa.
Tom Courtenay, David Hemmings, Helen Mirren, Ray Winston.
Hang on. Michael Caine and Bob Hoskins together.
Yep.
And it's not Mona Lisa, as you say, mate. We've done that.
Tom Courtenay and David Hemmings and Helen Mirren and Ray Winston from 2001.
Oh, it's not Last Orders, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't seen
right.
that.
My turn to get sentimental about locations, because that all takes place in North Kent, a lot of it.
Yeah.
And they go through Rochester, which is just down the road. And they go to the Chatham War Memorial, which I can almost see from my house.
Yeah.
Great. Do you know, I don't think I've actually watched it all the way through. I think I only sort of skimmed through it to watch the locations that I know.
Well, I'm hoping it's as good as I remember, because I do remember thinking there was a good dramatic quality to it when I saw it, whatever, 10, 15 years ago, as I say. So, and I thought with that cast, it's going to have to be done sooner or later. And I thought, why not do it when we've got Mark on to translate some of the accents?
And you do know that you're making a rod for your own back with the Hall of Fame because of this amazing cast as well.
Well, yes, it goes two ways with that, because although they've got a lot of credits themselves, the main cast, there's only 38 people in it in total, so it could have been worse. The other film I was thinking of doing had about 90. So
and the good thing about this, with it only being 30 years old or whatever, you're not going to get your guy Stan Devons and your Victor Harringtons and all of those guys possibly as extras in this.
No, and partly also because there's a certain amount of flashback in the films where there's the younger versions of people, so it's not actually, if it was doing it the other way around, perhaps it was set further back and it was the younger person was Michael Caine or Bob Hoskins, and then you had the older people, the Stan Devon, etc. But no, it'd be interesting to see what you think.
I'm looking forward to that. Mark, you've seen it? Have you seen it?
No,
I don't think I've actually watched it all the way through, like I say, but I'm aware of it. And again, it's a Michael Caine and a Ray Winston. You think that, that would have been top of my list, but
interesting. Helen Mirren's in it too. Helen Mirren and Bob Hoskins. From Friday, and
Yeah, I mean, its basic premise is there's a group of friends that have known each other for decades, and one of them dies, and therefore it's basically a bit of a road trip and reminiscing, and a lot of the past coming to a certain amount of settlement with, because of various things happened in the past between the group of friends. It's going basically a memorial ride out, as you say, to the seaside.
Cool.
So it'd be interesting to see what you both have to say.
Yeah, I thought it was just a drama at a wake. I've got the wrong idea about this film.
It's a road trip, isn't it? They go to Margate.
It starts out as a wake, which is why the cover
of
the
thing
is them all
Maybe
in,
I've seen
in a
a
pub,
bit of it.
I'd be surprised if you haven't got some awareness of it. Once you start watching it, going, oh yeah, it expands out a bit more from that, and particularly with the sort of flashback element to it. So yeah, it's very much character driven, and with the actors and actress you have in it, it's heavy quality in that sense as well.
Looking forward to that. Okay, Stephen, thank you so much for bringing that to the table for us for next time, but also a massive thank you for the Village Hall of Fame as per usual, mate. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you for giving up your Sunday morning to come and chat rubbish with us.
Oh, that's all right, man.
As you do quite often now.
Hell of a film to talk about. It's
Yeah.
very, very enjoyable.
Absolutely. That's it from us for this time, guys. I'll see you very soon. Take care.
Take care.
A positive shower.
Bon voyage. Good luck. Thank you.
The British end up, sir.